Okay, with me today is Jay Rattino, and he's with us from the area around Paterson, New Jersey. And he comes with us with very exciting news. He wants to bring back an old Italian tradition that was extinct for a while, the San Leucio Society. And I don't think I pronounced it right, Jay. So if you can pronounce it correctly for the audience, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. San Leucio.
San Leucio Society, right? And this was a saint, obviously, that was celebrated at one point in time, really throughout Paterson, New Jersey, with the Italian immigrant community that had been there for a while.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they have records of them back to 1928, at least their formal the formal documentation at least filed with the government. But I'd imagine that they were doing their devotion before that even. But 1928 is what we at least have on paper.
Now, was Paterson the only place where they did this, or was there other communities where they celebrated this saint?
There's other places for sure that we even see it going on now.
Really?
Yeah. So up in Auburn, New York, there's a devotee up there who's they do their nothing as grandiose as it had been in the past, but they do have a mass for him, try to line up with the original hometown. And then in New Haven, Connecticut, they have it up and running up there, and there's a lot of connection between our team and their team in regards to that.
What's the background of the saint? Where did he come from, and what was his short biography?
Yeah, so high level, very early on. I mean, it's I think that they believe he died in the year 180, so he's very early on.
Oh, whoa, that was a long time ago.
Sure, yeah, and he's from Egypt, Alexandria. Had a monastic life in the beginning. His initial name, I have the name written down. The original name is Euprecius, and he during a vision that his father had during the feast of Our Lady of the Assumption, he changed his name, and he had a vision that his son would go on to fight idolatry and help the people of the area. So and that was at a young age. And then he came over to after some miracles attributed to him, exorcisms in Egypt, Ethiopia. He came over to southern Italy on his mission. Some of the legends are that he, fought a dragon, at least one, in a Tessa, Italy. The bigger, the cool, I mean, that's obviously, all all miracles are exciting in their own way, but the one that stands out a lot, and there's a little more on it, is the miracle of the rain. There was 2 years of a drought in Salento, Italy, and the prefect there had told him, if you are able to pray to your God to help us with this drought, we'll convert, or I'll convert. So he proceeded to go outside the city walls and prayed, and the drought ended. So as a result of that, there was 27,000 converts to Christianity alone. So those are the legends. But I would say, if we were to fast forward to, as it relates to the town itself, on record they have at least that when Saint Rocco was, and I don't mean to speak on the Saint Rocco the following, but I guess there was a lot of people that prayed to him during these outbreaks of flu, etc. So I have the year written down as 1656. They had an outbreak, and the people there, without any sense of medicine or anything really, I mean, I'm sure they had some version of that. They would surrender it up to divine mercy and pray. And the devotion to Saint Rocco was there, but in the town of where this originates, at least, it's San Salvatore Telesino. They had found.
Let me interrupt you real quick. What region is this in Italy? Is this where in Italy is this?
So it's in Benevento. It's close to, I would say, like half an hour drive outside of Naples. So in that town, they had found in 1656, or at least a few years prior to that, before this the first disease outbreak, an old wooden statue of St. Lucius, and the cult seemed to had kicked off from there, and they prayed to him, and that's more or less the origin of it. In fact, they believe that's really, there's not much argument about where it began, because a lot of the Italians name the family members after, or their kids after, these saints, and the first baptismal records that they have of kids names Leucio is around 1656. So that's why people are pretty confident that that's the real origin of why this town, became devotees to the saint.
I see. So that was brought over to Paterson, I guess, because of the immigrants from Benevento and that area of Naples, I guess, or that area of Campania.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the books that we have here, they went all over, like most places. They went to and they brought their devotions with them. So we have Wilmington, Delaware, Pittsburgh, Auburn, New Haven, New York, and Paterson. So, I don't know how strong the devotions were in each of these places, but we know for sure. And, what we're working on, at least on our end, is the devotion that had existed, at least in Paterson.
So in Paterson, New Jersey, they had, give people maybe a little bit of background. They had it was a parade that some of the photographs you had were like parades, I guess. They had a festival. And what time of year was this that they used to have this outpouring of devotion for the saint?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, there's two dates that celebrate him. I mean, the more I would say, probably lack of a good word, exciting part would be, the mass feast and procession, which occurs always the last Sunday of July. That's at least where they celebrate it in the hometown. I can only speculate that, summertime is better to do a procession because I don't know why July is the case. In January 11th is when the Catholic calendar celebrates him. So they do have a mass for him on that day, but the mass, procession, and feast are always the last Sunday of July. So at least, based on the newspaper records that we have of Paterson, they would do a triduo leading up to Sunday, have a mass in Paterson, St. Michael's specifically. And then they'd have shuttles going up to what previously existed. It was called Michael's Grove, and it was in Totowa, New Jersey. And, I think a lot of these, it seemed like the paper clippings demonstrated that a lot of these, societies that had existed had used Michael's Grove for their processions and feasts. But we know for sure that San Leucio was celebrated up there, and his statue was there. So they would go there and after the mass and do the procession and then have a feast. And that was pretty much the Sunday event.
So it just lasted one day, basically, the event. And this was in July, and then January was again. So January was the mass, I guess, and then July was the procession and feast.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what we have so far. I mean, I'll say that half the battle here with these revivals is we're trying to dig up people that had been there, and then even when we find those people, they all have slightly different versions.
Sure.
Yeah. But in general, they all do agree upon what was done, at least on Sunday.
When did it begin in Paterson? This outpouring, the celebration. When did it end? When did it stop happening?
Sure.
About that.
So 1928 is we found a document where it was at least filed with the government. That was when they officially became a society. I would suspect that they were probably doing something at least smaller before that, but that's at least when they were officially founded. But again, I really think that they were probably doing something before that. So it's probably safe to say the 1920s. But and we have records of them doing this every year up until it gets fuzzy around 1970s. And I think at that point, we just, based on the people that we've spoken to, these things tend to die out, maybe because lack of generational interest, or people moving from the area. But what was kind of the final, nail in it was a fire that occurred at Michael's Grove, which burnt down the facility, and including the saint himself. So the statue was really in bad shape.
This is, you said this is Michael's Grove, is that right? I mean, that because now is this in Paterson, or is this outside of Paterson, or where is it? Give us an idea what this place is like.
Sure. The border of Totowa and Paterson. Totowa is the town right next door, which is. Right, yeah. And coincidentally, or maybe not coincidentally, is the town is where I'm from.
Right.
That's where they celebrated, and so they would take a shuttle from Paterson up there. And I'll be honest, I don't know what it looked like, because ever since I've been alive, they built houses on the estate, and
sure,
it's referred to as something else. But yeah, that's where they. So I would imagine it looked based on the pictures to be. Just a picnic campgrounds, a little bit hilly, but enough to kind of encompass a lot of feasts.
You want to now in your case, you want to bring back the feast. where would you have it? Would you have it there? Can you still have it at Michael's Grove, or do you have to have it some other place in Paterson? Or
Yeah, so the Michael's Grove, scenario is that's it's gone because there's houses there now. So, I would say that, our revival is a bit, and maybe to our benefit, we're going to be a bit crafty in the sense that, wherever we're welcomed is going to be where we can do this. I mean, I think we have, we're making big announcements this month in regards to, where we're going to celebrate our January Mass and where it's going to be in July. But, in every effort possible, we want it to be as local to Paterson as we can. Granted, there are some logistics that need to be worked out, but I guess, it is safe to say that we're, at least the January one is locked in, and July is, we're getting close to that. But, we want to just, even though the location is going to be different, the Mass feast and procession is going to be, copied to the extent that it was back then.
Well, let me just give the audience some perspective. I'm going to show here. This is the most recent edition of PRIMO that we did. This is this gentleman, Luke Costello, and for Abbott and Costello, and he's from Paterson, New Jersey. And this is just indicative of just at one point in time, there was a very sizable Italian American community that was in Paterson, and they've moved away, I guess. It's total as a big Italian American community still and around that area. And it's about what, maybe 20 miles outside of New York City, or
that's,
I guess. It's very close.
Yeah, and Luke Costello the park is very close to. It was originally called Cross Street, and now it's Chauncey Street, and that's the little enclave that existed there. But the Luke Costello, we pass up the Luke Costello statue quite often, so it was pretty exciting to see your issue come out with the legend himself.
Yeah, it's everybody, is a very popular edition, of course, because, growing up, you used to watch Abbott and Costello reruns almost on a weekly basis out there in the New York City area. Channel 11 and these other channels had it. And he was always very, what the article told us, he always, visited Paterson quite often, and his family was still there. And he was a proud son of the city. And that's just, it's got a great history. It's one of those places, I think, where, once you delve into the history of that area, all kinds of things come up.
No, that's exciting. No, I'm looking forward to reading that. It was funny to see that was your cover this month. That's awesome.
Right. So, but anyway, what about all the banners and the material that they used for the celebration? Do you still have them? And I guess are you able to obtain them from that time, or do you have to recreate them, or what is it you're going to do about that?
I would say, our primary motive is to recreate everything, because we're just, if these things do pop up, and with the benefit and we're grateful that having this interview where, maybe I'm hoping for someone to pop up and be like, yeah, we heard, Aunt Rose had this, and that, but we have located at least one banner. It's the feminine society, like the ladies society. There's a banner that exists, I believe, in St. Michael's. But we're making all efforts to kind of recreate them and make them look as close as possible to the originals. I mean, half the battle is we don't know where some of these originals are. So this is the ground floor, starting everything up. So even our fundraisers, we're trying to be as crafty as possible here to kind of get this thing going. But, the idea is not to necessarily make it all happen day one. It's to make it last for, future generations and our children, and recreate, what our ancestors, believed.
Yeah, no, that's great news, because what I'm seeing happening, just attending Mass, I see more people trying to hark back to the traditions. I see more women, for instance, covering in Mass than I used to. I would never see that. Now I'm beginning to see maybe 10-15% of the young women at that too covering. And the Latin Mass is very popular, of course, and just the traditional functions of the Catholic Church have returned. So, you really begin to see a big return to the traditions. This past Columbus Day, I think, was one of the most enthusiastic I've seen in the last 20 years. I mean, just was a lot of outpouring, particularly in the New York City area and elsewhere. So what you're doing is really consistent to, I think, what a lot of people are looking for. Something to put their finger on regarding tradition and the old customs.
Yeah, no, it's great to hear you say that, because we definitely feel the same way. And, even this past weekend, we were over in Newark for St. Gerard, and you can see people they're hungry for bringing these things back. And it's something that just maybe you don't know necessarily what you're hungry for, but when you see it and you know what it is,
what was he?
That's it.
Yeah. What was he the patron saint of, by the way? What did he? What what would people seek his prayers for? Any sort of recovery at all, or anything of that effect, and healing at all related to the saint?
I'd say, like, he is the patron saint of the town, but a lot of people have they seem to pray to him, at least in that town, pray to him for the salvation of divine mercy for any diseases. So that's what I see more often than not. So similar. I mean, I don't want to, probably similar to what they pray to Saint Rocco for, during these outbreaks.
Is just that section of Italy, or were there other sections of Italy that looked to the saint?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a few towns I wrote them down. Lecce, Atessa. There's a few. I mean, there's a lot of churches in there that are named after the saint. So it certainly isn't dedicated only to this town. I just know that specifically my ancestors in the town have a very strong devotion to him, but it definitely exists throughout at least southern Italy. Maybe the devotions are a little bit stronger, or they have more of a stronger devotion towards other saints, but I mean, he's definitely revered in a lot of part of southern Italy.
Well, I'm going to try to include links to everything, of course, in the interview, and regarding your society and where people can go if they want to contribute money or contribute any effort. If you can just tell us right now what that would be to the audience, maybe that might help also.
No, thank you so much for that. I mean, we have a website. It's Saint Leucio society.org. But I mean, I'll if it's okay, I'll send all the links, because I don't know if there's underscores, but we have an Instagram account, we have a Facebook account, and we have a phone number people want to call. I mean, we're pretty. It's not it's very ground level. We would, if anyone has any questions or they're curious, or even if there's some people that are listening that were involved in this and they're angry at something that they're hearing now, where this is not how it was, please call. We want you to know. We want to learn. I mean, this is because at the end of the day, we're reviving tradition. We're not trying to recreate anything.
Now, what church, what parish are you? Do you attend? When the parish that's really kind of foreseeing this, basically, what parish is that in I guess from Toto or whatever it is where you live?
Yeah, I live in Westwood, New Jersey. I'm close. We're close to that area, but I'll say, without if it's okay, we're having a big reveal on Tuesday, our launch party, and but it is a church within the Diocese of Paterson, which was a priest was open to embracing us, and his enthusiasm for it is overwhelming. So that's going to be if it's okay, that's our big reveal on Tuesday. But we're definitely going to announce it on our media platforms.
Well, that should be very exciting. It's great to have. I noticed a lot of priests are really interested in going back to these traditions. It's amazing how many priests are open to this and looking forward to these sorts of things. I mean, the church that I belong to, Old St. Mary's here in Washington, D.C. Now, the parish priest is Italian. His name is Father Vincent de Rosa, but the church was founded by Austrians, Swiss, and Germans. So he's trying to bring back the Oktoberfest there and try to, hark back to the to the German traditions, that's there. And everybody's very excited about that. So it just seems like a lot of people just want to go and find what the origins of the churches were and to try to revive those traditions. And let me tell you this, it's very important that we all do this, because what happens is when those traditions fall away, the bishop of the archdiocese might think, oh, well, this church isn't what it once was, and if they want to sell property and other things, they may close some of these churches down, because I've seen a lot of that happen over the last 10, 12 years. We had Our Lady of Loretto in East New York. We had St. Peter's in Duluth, Minnesota. We had Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Massachusetts. And it's just what happened was they did have these customs, they did have these traditions, they faded away. Maybe the parish had less attendees than they used to be, and then there's a need for money. The bishop says, okay, we're going to close down this church. You have to go to another church. So I think that's why it's very, very important for people to really try to embrace these traditions, keep the parish going. And I think it's really important what you're doing.
No, thank you. It's a blessing to hear you say that. And I also want to just piggyback that and say, even I didn't have I didn't grow up with this. This is not something. I encourage people that are that don't know where they come from, or maybe they don't have a connection to it. It doesn't mean you're excluded from reviving these things. I mean, we're all this is all part of our history, even if you didn't grow up with it necessarily. And maybe that's just me wanting to believe that. But I mean, I think we have a connection to these things, whether we remember them or not. So that's my hope too. Aside from the success of what we're doing, is maybe it'll be a domino effect for other societies or other people that are curious about their past, churches that are dwindling, and then these devotions can maybe save them, or even just help people in their prayer life. So that's our hope. This is to help everybody here.
Well, it's so important. I mean, we're celebrating the 60th anniversary of Vatican II, and all the changes that occurred in the church. Some of them are very good, of course, but others, I think, what happened was they diminished those traditions, and that's like one of the three pillars of the Catholic Church. And when you diminish those, I don't think it was either was intended or not. I'm not sure. But once those traditions become diminished, then other things become diminished, and then other things, then you have other problems that occur. And that's why I think some of these parishes are struggling, because there's nothing for people to tie itself to just beyond the Mass and the celebration of the Eucharist. You need something more than that, I guess, to connect people to the parish family, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I couldn't. Yeah, really, I totally agree with all that. I mean, that's the essence. That's the spirit that's driving us, without a doubt.
Well, that's great. Well, it's again very commendable what you're doing. I know it's a lot of hard work, but it pays off in the end, and it just becomes something memorable for everyone. And it's these sorts of traditions that people live for.
Yeah, and if I could just on the platform, just thank because there's so many people that are, I'm talking to you today, but there's so many people that are supporting this effort that it's overwhelmingly, you get emotional thinking about what people are longing for, and the amount of people that are behind this are just it's astonishing. So yeah,
that's great. So it's this San Leucio Society. I'm terrible when it comes to pronouncing Italian. I wish I was better. But if you can tell us again everything about it one more time, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's the San Leucio Society, Paterson. We're working, to do everything we can with some kind of crafty fundraisers. But if you want to help, just check out the website, follow on Instagram, follow on Facebook. Financially, I mean, obviously, no one's going to turn away money. It'll go towards good use. But we do have a good number of fundraisers that are coming up that are announced there. Some of which are just movie nights, dinners. We have one coming up in December. It's letters from St. Nicholas of Bari, so it's a little more of a traditional, something a bit different that we're hoping to go for. And we do have a free community school, which is a little more. It just gives it's a Zoom class. It's free, and you can come on there and learn about some of the older traditions and some that are transcend any kind of culture. It's just how to pray the rosary, things like that. So please check it out, tell your friends, and please just pray for us. And that's and thank you so much for having us today. This is such a huge help to get the word out.
Well, definitely, and I hope you keep us posted and stuff about how everything turns out, and what we can do here at PRIMO to help this become a reality for you. We'd be very excited to help you in this respect.
No, we're blessed to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jay. That's Jay Rattino. He's from Paterson, New Jersey, and he's harking back to the traditions of Catholicism, which we all want to do. And this, I think, is so important to keep the Catholic traditions going, but also the Italian American traditions going as well. So this is very important. Well, thank you very much, Jay, and we look forward to speaking with you again.
Hey, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, best of luck to you, and please keep us posted.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks.